have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world. When you hit that play button, so glad you did. This is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina, coming at you with another episode here of the Genesis frequency. And we are all about whole life prosperity, meaning success, achievement, performance, productivity, personal, professional, and leadership development for the individual, the small business owner, and those on a corporate team, anywhere on that corporate team, from the C suite executives to the frontline workers, wherever you are. Welcome in, because I guarantee you there is a nugget within each and every one of these podcasts that can make a difference, have an influence and impact in your life when it comes to what you want to achieve, what you want to experience in your life and in your world. So make no mistake, this is for individuals and those seeking higher aspirations in their career. And really, the personal and professional aspect of our lives really go together, because we should have all developed some kind of mission or purpose statement for our lives. If you've been listening to the show for any length of time, I've encouraged you to do just that. Think about, what is it I'm here to do? What are my strengths? What are my passions? What do I love? What do I have to have in all my experiences, or in most of my experience, to really feel fulfilled? And I shared with you that I had to be around water, big water. I live on the Gulf of Mexico, so I'm fulfilling that. But even prior to that, I identified that in when I was up in Michigan, I lived on Houghton Lake for a while, largest inland lake in Michigan, and right across the street from Lake Huron, looking at Lake Huron, one of the Great Lakes, every day. So I've always had to have that water in my life. But that only enhances my call to offer and share wisdom and knowledge and help move people to a place of understanding how they can make quantum leaps in their lives when it comes to what they want to experience. And it's all about living the life you would love to live. So hopefully you've done some of that identification about your mission and your purpose and what you're passionate about. So what I want to get at today, when we know what that is, first of all, the personal and professional ties together, because hopefully your career, your profession, or whatever you're doing with your time is in alignment with those passions and those missions and your values. Don't forget those, right? Because it's all about what we're being. What are we being, right? The model is be, do, have, but we always have to get that in order. What are we being? And I want to talk today a little bit about thought. I pay a lot of attention when a book falls off the shelf. And it does from time to time. That book falls off the shelf and it opens to a page. Maybe it doesn't open to a page, and I'm just inspired to go pick it up and open to a random page. Um, Maybe it's just been somehow it got on top of the pile, and I don't ever remember taking it off the shelf. But it just is there in our conscious awareness, seemingly all of a sudden. here's this random book just appeared or fell off the shelf or sitting on top of the pile or it's on the desk and I don't know how it got there. So I pay attention to it and I recently over the last several days have come across one book I'm very familiar with. In fact, I used it for my doctoral dissertation. And, I haven't picked it up in a long time, probably since the writing of that dissertation, or maybe it was the master's thesis. I don't know, but I did use that. I'd have to look it up. And I just remembered picking it up and noticing it falling off the shelf or whatever it was that brought it to my attention that it's just so good. It's just so good. And there's so much inspiration and inspiration in here. And it's one of those books that's written with like point by point, part by part. It'll have part one, and then it'll have point one, point two, point three. So I like books like that. They're easy to get through, and you can take one point and you can just chew on that for a while, or all week, or all day, or just take it into quiet time, take it into your practice of the silence or meditation. And one of the things I love about this is everything in here really applies to what I talk about here on the show, personally, professionally, leadership, and and that's what the show's all about, right? So, hey, excuse me, I'm on location, not in the regular studio, and I hear some emergency vehicles going on outside the window here. So please excuse that if you hear any noise in the background. Not my regular environment for doing the show. So back to this book. It's titled Master Key System, and it's by Charles Hannell. Now I know that I've had it for a long time, and let me take a look here. I'm not sure. Actually, it doesn't really matter how old this is because when it comes to wisdom of the ages, it's really timeless, and it doesn't really matter what the copyright. In fact, it doesn't even have one in here. I don't that I see anyway. So we're going to just let that go for right now. But right off the bat, as I noticed this book as it fell off the floor, I picked it up and I have highlights through here and sticky notes, like I do in a lot of books, but even more so in this one since I did use it for my dissertation. And I said, where do I go? There's so much good everywhere. Every page I turn to, there's so much good. Well, if I want to tie it in with some of the things I've been talking about over the last couple episodes, which have been about developing your plan for the year ahead, right? As I record this, we're nearing the end of the year we're in, but it doesn't matter when you're picking this up. I acknowledge and respect the fact that people start in on this show at different times of the year. People listen to an episode and then they go back and they listen to episodes randomly. It doesn't matter where you are on the calendar. I want to get that clear. It doesn't matter where you're at on the calendar if you're with me and you're nearing the end of a calendar year. It can be the beginning of a calendar year, the middle of a calendar year. You always have a next day, right? You're always approaching a next month. You're always approaching a next week. You're always approaching a brand new day, tomorrow, whatever it is. And you can start new in the next moment, in the very next moment. That can be your brand new year ahead. So when I talk like that, just know you don't have to wait. The time is now to move into the life you would love to live, to create the conditions, the circumstances, the experience that are in alignment with the life you would love to live. You can be what you want to be. And where does that being come from? Well, it all starts with thought, and you hear me talk about that a lot. And that's where I'm going with this book. I opened it up with all these sticky notes and not knowing where to start since there's a message in here for me to look at. Thought maybe if I started at the beginning, right? Isn't that always a good place to start? At the beginning. So if we're creating and you've done all the exercises I've given you to do over the last several episodes to prepare for moving into your big dream goal and once and for all achieving that in the days and the weeks and the months and the years ahead, Where do we start once we've done all that prep work? Well, we have to start with our thoughts. We have to start with what we're being. Where are we now? And we can point back to thought. In the times that we live in the busyness of our lives, there used to be times when, you know, people had their faces buried in the book, buried in the newspaper. Now we have their faces buried in the smartphone, right? Or on the tube, on the TV, on any one of the many social media sites, and we're bombarded with information. Remember when, well, maybe you don't remember, but I remember when computers were starting to get popular, and then there was online services like AOL, and I think they're still out there, but it was exciting. I mean, the big excitement was you've got mail, right? If you can hear that voice perhaps when I say that, you've got mail. And it was exciting. What? Somebody sent me an email. Now it's like pulling our hair out and just stop. I have 5 or 6 active, probably more than that, active email accounts that I got in the habit of constantly monitoring throughout the day, and it's just insane. So I'm backing up and becoming more disciplined with technology. But what did I have to do that? I had to have a thought about that. I said, man, my thoughts are all over the place. I got to get clarity in my thought and thinking. So let's get back to this book and let's get some nuggets around that. I'll share a couple of these points for today, just a few points for us to chew on a little bit and take the wisdom out of, extract that wisdom. And always on this show, it's, hey, take what works for you and apply it in your life. It's about the application and the action in your life. What do you hear here that resonates with you, that says, hey, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to take action on some of these items. That's what I encourage you to do. You have to prove these principles for yourself in your life. When you prove them in your own life, you'll get to a point of belief. And if there is any skepticism there, you'll erase that and say, hey, this works. Because what I talk about here is really universal law. It works for everybody and it works all the time. It's law. It's like gravity. There's no times like when it doesn't work. I guess you could argue that gravity's not really working in the swimming pool, but yeah, it is. We're just buoyant, right? So there's the law of buoyancy. Anyway, enough of that. So in this Master Key System by Charles Hannell, there's a great foreword, of course, and introduction. But in part one, he's talking about being, he's talking, there's not even a title, it's just part one. And the very first point in part one says that much gathers, more is true. That much gathers, more is true on every plane of existence, and that loss leads to greater loss is equally true. Think about that. Well, this goes way back, and it even predates Scripture if we would go back to some of the Greek philosophers. But even in Scripture, we hear those who have more will be given. Those who have not, even what they have will be taken away. And it just seems like, wow, that's a cruel law. But if we look at the realm of thought, we can more clearly see how this is true. We can really gain clarity around this. If we have thoughts of abundance, if we have thoughts of positive expectation, if we have thoughts that we're going to be a person of increase, a person of goodwill, person that spreads loving kindness, that is moving away from non-judgmental, that does practice harmlessness, if we're being that, more of those qualities will will grow in and become apparent in our lives. And as we're being that, we're going to be attractive to like kinds of events, circumstances, people, experiences, whatever the thought is. So if we think abundantly, or if we think from a place of scarcity, whatever it is, we will gather more of that. If our dominant thoughts are lack and limitation, and I don't have, there's not enough, I can't afford it, I'm clipping a coupon, I gotta save, I gotta, then we're in a place of limitation. We're in a place of lack, and we will gather more lack. It will be apparent in everything we do. So, a good point of wisdom here, right off the bat. That much gathers more is true on every plane of existence, and that loss leads to greater loss is equally true. So, have an abundance of good quality thoughts. I talked about the busyness of the lives we live in, the email, the text, the phone, the tube, the bombardment from the world around us. We have to take this time to retreat back within us. And that's what this is all about. Paying attention to our thought, because we have 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day. You hear me say that all the time. That's a lot of thoughts. What are they about? Most of them are about the same thing we thought about yesterday, but we're bombarded with more from the world around us. So we have thoughts maybe about those things and opinions about those things and judgments about those things. It's time to get to that place of quiet and really engage and pay attention to what we're thinking about. Point two says mind is creative, and conditions, environment, and all experiences in life are the result of our habitual or predominant mental attitude. Remember, attitude is thoughts, feelings, and actions. What's your predominant attitude? Mind is creative, and conditions, environment, and all experience in life are the result of our habitual thoughts. Well, what's showing up? I tell people a lot when whether I'm in a corporate environment or coaching one on one or in our group, hey, I can tell you what you're thinking. Just tell me what's showing up in your life. Let's talk about your results that are you are experiencing. Your results, your circumstances, your environment, the events that are happening all the time. I can tell you what your thoughts are because your thoughts your experiences are an outpicturing of those thoughts. Your dominant thoughts tend to externalize in actual experiences. So keep that in mind that mind is creative. You want to change how you're showing up, what you're being. You want to change your corporate culture. You want to change your small business environment and attract more business and customers. Think about your thoughts. Remember the first point. Are you thinking thoughts of, man, business is going downhill? It's going down and down and down. I don't know. If it keeps up like this, I'm not going to be able to keep the door open. Well, that's thoughts of lack, and you're going to gather more of that. Point one, right? So point two, your mind is creative. You can flip the coin on that. You can start having thoughts that are about plenty, are about abundance, and recognize that your thoughts are creative and they will tend to externalize. We only have time for probably one more here. Point three, the attitude of mind necessarily depends upon what we think. Therefore, the secret of all power, all achievement, and all possessions depends upon our method of thinking. The attitude of mind. Wow, we could do a whole show and I could do a whole series just on attitude of mind, but it depends on what we think. What are you choosing to think? Get this. You choose to think the thoughts you think. You can choose them. You don't have to base your thoughts on what's going on in the world around you. You can think your thoughts, right? That's the secret of power, achievement, and all possessions. What thoughts are you thinking? Today's going to be a great day. I know within me I have the power to be all I am meant to be, all I am called to be. I know that I'm going to think thoughts aligned with my purpose, with my passion, with my values. I'm going to think thoughts about being a person of increase, about being kind, caring, loving, compassionate, giving, and forgiving to all people. My thoughts will not entertain anything that causes harm towards another individual. We get to choose the thoughts that we think. Stop the noise around you for a minute and push back, lean into this for a moment. Wow, I get to choose the thoughts I think. And the thoughts I think are creative. The thoughts I think externalize as conditions, circumstances, events, situations, and results that show up in my life. So, wouldn't you want to think about what you want, what you expect, rather than what you don't want? Right? So this all ties in with where I've been going with these episodes over the last few months, giving you everything you need to think about to prepare for the life you would love to live, for the culture you'd love to create in your professional environment, in your corporate environment, for moving ahead and growing your small business, for you as an individual, moving into more. Right? It's all right here. These first 3 points, I think we're going to keep moving forward with this because this is just pure wisdom. This isn't theory. This is law. This is how we are wired, and it is creative. It helps us to shut the outer off and move within and harness this power that we have. That's what it's all about, this power that we have to choose our thoughts, realizing our thoughts are creative. That's what it's all about. We have to spend more time with this, in this space, in this area, deliberately choosing our thoughts, deliberately creating the life we would love to live. It's what it's all about. Stay tuned. We're going to keep going with this. Listen to this one again. Write down these nuggets. Pay attention to them. Apply them in your life and take action with them. Quiet things down. Get with your thoughts. Hey, if you want some help around this, you want to see what I do in the time that I'm not recording a podcast and get involved with leadership development. I'm a new franchisee of Leadership Management International. I also am a certified Proctor Gallagher consultant, and I also offer entrepreneurs an opportunity to participate in one or more of those areas of personal and professional development, coming on as a team member. So if you'd like to talk about any of this, if you just want coaching, consulting, or training in the corporate space, uh, working on performance and productivity, whatever it is for you or your organization, reach out. Successappointment.com. Successappointment.com. Successappointment.com gets you a spot on my calendar and we can talk about this. We're having a showcase of a personal productivity course coming up, and I'd love to have you in that. Love to have either your team, you as a leader, or you just as an individual working on improving your productivity, better managing all that you do throughout the day. Come on board. Let's talk about it. Let's get you into the next showcase. For now, you've been listening to the Genesis Frequency, and you've been listening to Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmina. That's me, and I wish for you an infinitely spectacular day. God bless you.